Welcome back to Matters of Faith. I'm Christiana Baghajati. With me in the studio is Carla Amina Baghajati, and we're talking about overcoming Islamophobia in Europe. Now, before the break, we were just trying to figure out where is it particularly bad and where are there some better examples where it's, quite good in terms of...
Recent research shows us that countries where Islam has a tradition, is acknowledged, where there are principles of mutual understanding and building bridges, the situation is better. And of course I'm happy to feel that Austria, as a good example, is mirrored in this report. And if we have guests of different Muslim countries, they always state, oh, it's nice to be walking in Austrian streets. I feel that people respect me, I feel free, and it's a nice atmosphere with you. There are other countries like Great Britain who have a long tradition in finding solutions, the Muslim Council for Britain.
Yes.
And there are countries where we have reports of difficult issues like France, and perhaps France with its system of secularism, not to be secularism like in Austria, where we have a balanced way of interference between state and religions, kind of partnership, but of course different spheres that are not asking to be responsible for the other. So it's a separation, but a friendly separation, and there is something they have in common. And in France, it's laicistic, and this sharp separation is not easy, especially when it comes to Muslim needs.
Yes, because all sorts of things are forbidden. I mean, any kind of expression of the faith in the public sphere is completely forbidden. Yet a Muslim cannot really do anything but express and show their identity.
Yes, and I think it needs again dialogue. For example, take the veil, that raises so many questions. If you know that people might fear, 20 years later and more Muslims, do they want us to wear the veil like them? Then of course we need to answer and say, no, it's my own business and you are free. Do what you like. Like you like.
And also that the veil doesn't mean terrorism or
fundamentalism or being narrow-minded or anything
or suppressed
or a victim.
Absolutely. Now, how important do you think is the media, the role of the media? I would like to talk to you about in terms of Islamophobia and racism in Europe. Do you think they're doing their job properly?
Well, I don't want to come into this choir of people putting all the blame on the media, for I strongly believe in the power of media as the fourth power in any democratic system, fostering debates and discourse and, in the best sense, enlightenment. So I think it's about professionalism in dealing with Islam and Muslims. And many people complain about something like illiteracy when it comes to Islam, not knowing about how it works, what it is about, using the correct terms. Simple example, since the case of Salman Rushdie, many people mix up the word fatwa with a death sentence, which is complete rubbish. It's nothing but something like a statement, a guideline, an interpretation, but it even gives space for your personal attitude towards it. So it needs more knowledge.
It's a judicial statement as well.
Yes. But anyhow, we need this more knowledge.
Also, the terms Islamism and Islam are often mixed up.
That's true.
One is a political ideology, the other one is the faith.
But terms change. I do remember when scientists called themselves Islamists. Only some 20 years ago, you have it in the back of some books.
Like Orientalists, you mean?
Yes. Somebody knowing about Islam, specialist. So terms change. Well, again, the media work has to be understood. Media are, in a sense, instruments that are not only communication, but they are consumed. So you need to be consumer orientated.
Yes.
And if media want to have it the easy-going way, they may tend to give something that feeds the existing mindset of people, not to give them the trouble of questioning old prejudice.
And also, of course, as you said before, bad news sells. So you have a terrorist on the front page that sells better than a group of nice Muslims who sit together.
Absolutely true. But then I know so many colleagues who have the ethical principles about good journalism, where it's a real pleasure to work with.
Yes.
And
who like to feature enlightened thinkers, scholars.
And what I think is essential in making good news is to be curious, to answer questions, and not to have all the questions prepared beforehand, but to be flexible enough to ask more questions and new questions. And nothing worse than a journalist looking just for a face for his story.
Exactly, and especially not having all the answers already in your head before writing the interview, which is...
And of course you have certain role models, perceptions. If you have a veiled woman, she is traditionalist. And perhaps you have a veiled lady who is more modern and open thinking than an unveiled lady.
Exactly.
So you have to present it in a proper sense.
Now, how much do you think do Muslims themselves play a role in fostering these prejudices, the bad images? Perhaps, they react a little bit too emotional at times to certain crises, like after the cartoon crisis, the burning flags left, right and center and so on.
Well, of course, it's very important to ask this critical question as well. And as Muslims, we should be open towards self-criticism, not to be just proud about ourselves without digging a little deeper and finding out where we need to improve ourselves. And being too touchy won't bring us any further in public debate. And the cartoon crisis, of course, is an example for this. But I'd like to be critical about all sides. And if we look at it closely, we'll find that the cartoon crisis is mostly about denying dialogue. Because it started when? September 2005. And the great debates and what the scenes in the Muslim countries outside, the rage we saw, was in the beginning of 2006. What has happened all these months? And there were several tryings of Muslims to get into dialogue in Denmark, and they were denied because they were told, you have to get taught this lesson. Shut up. You have to learn about freedom of speech. And then one media after the other kept copying the same cartoons. Yes, absolutely. And then we have, this is again something we have to be critical about the media and how they work, looking for certain images, pictures that back up prejudice or mindsets people have when thinking about Muslims. Muslims being always too touchy, too emotional. And then we have the pictures of flags of Denmark being burned, crying people, carrying Quran. When I watched other programs, the satellite channels, I saw other pictures. I saw very distinguished scientists sitting in a studio, Christian, Muslim, secular, debating how can we get over it. I saw people bringing flowers, presenting it to other people. So it's about showing the whole range of possibilities and cover everything. And I do remember a debate I had in Austrian TV with somebody, a filmmaker, who made a report on all the events. He asked me in the end, but why don't you have people like you? And the moderator asked him, why don't you show people like her?
Good point.
So we need the full coverage,
yes.
No doubt.
I wish you good luck with your important work, and
Thanks.
we'll be back with another edition of Matters of Faith very soon. Take care and goodbye.